Happy 413. Did you miss this? It's been several months since my last Fridgestuck style video, which is like a decade in internet time. Not only was the webcomic well and truly covered, in my eyes at least, I had also burnt out on Homestuck years ago. It felt like depression. Nothing about Homestuck sparked my interest anymore. There were no updates, no games to theorize or analyze. A desert of content ideas. Then suddenly, something came along that made me realize there was something that made me curious about Homestuck again. Something that made me think. Something so star-filled that I...
Stop that this instant.
Not again. Not again, not again, not again, not again, not again, not again. Jadon, my soul. Get them off me!
They escaped from Brainrot jail. Don't touch me.
You talking about your inspiration for this video? Only the Hollow Stars VTubers are here, I see. No rainbow guys.
Given the current situation with that company, it's probably best they didn't show. None of them are even connected to stars and You guys went back to your PLs for the love of
Jen! Help! The two legs got me! Oh no, surrounded by Ikemen, how terrifying. Shut it! One of these VTubers is part dingo!
Where's Evie?
Check in with the Swagapinos.
Huh. Would have sworn she would have flocked to Altair.
Well, he's a bit preoccupied.
Give me hope to hold on to what feels right. Piece by piece, let the colors intertwine.
Okay, that's enough chaos.
Chaos? I call it
Shh. Yo! Could all the VTubers present who have connections to constellations please take a seat? Everyone else, back to the Brainrot section. Please and thank you.
Ikuji-kan, andale, andale.
Except you. You can stay.
Don't you hate Ikemen? Don't you already have a love interest?
Constellations. The shapes in the skies going back to the start of human civilization. There are many constellations, like the 12 signs of the Zodiac, attributed to myths and legends. Many of these myths repeat themes, tropes, and characteristics, following the path as humanity continued to grow and expand its reach. These repeating myths form the idea behind comparative mythology. If the myths from the past contribute to comparative mythology, maybe our current age's troll characters of the Zodiac are more connected to myths than we think. Maybe even the stars themselves are connected to our trolls, much like how Betelgeuse, Sirius, and Altair are connected to the Hollow Stars. Let's start our list in reverse order, if you'd please, going from high blood to low blood. This video's already going longer than I thought it would be, so for this month, we're just going to be covering the high blood trolls, starting with Pisces. Pisces comes from the Latin word for fish. The constellation typically depicts two fish strung together by a cord. This imagery goes back thousands of years, and I don't think anybody really knows why. Greek mythology connects Pisces with Aphrodite, the goddess of love, beauty, and procreation, in two different tales. The most prevalent myth has Aphrodite and her son Eros evading the monster Typhon by jumping into the Euphrates River and turning into fish. Typhon is the same as John Egbert's denizen Typhoeus, by the way. I'm sure I've mentioned that somewhere before. Another myth has two fish responsible for Aphrodite's birth. In this story, an egg was dropped into the Euphrates River, and two fish pushed it to shore. After the egg was incubated by doves and hatched into Aphrodite, the two fish were honored by being put into the night sky as a constellation. This connection with goddesses goes back even further, as Babylon scholars originally labeled the northern section of the constellation Anuntium. the Lady of Heaven, another name for the goddess Ishtar. Not only was she the goddess of love and beauty, like Aphrodite and Venus after her, Ishtar was also the goddess of war, divine law, and political power. She was described as a conqueror who constantly strived for more power than was given to her, a love goddess who was not motherly in the slightest, and treated her lovers poorly. Remember that Mina and her imperious condescension are also associated with the Pisces constellation. Considering these two opposing aspects of love and war are connected through the same constellation, it's not so strange that one of Pfeffery's songs in the original soundtrack is called Love You, while one of Mina's is called Hate You. The fact that the Pisces family is swimming, pun intended, in gold is also not just because of their status as troll royalty. One of the brightest stars in the Pisces constellation is called Revati, literally meaning rich. Continuing with the constellation itself, Pisces also has a number of deep sky objects, celestial objects that exist between the stars themselves. One of these deep sky objects is NGC 628, also known as the Phantom Galaxy. Since its discovery in 1780, this large spiral galaxy has hosted 3 supernovas and is suspected to house a black hole. Another deep sky object of note is NGC 520. This section of Pisces has 2 massive spiral galaxies, slowly colliding into one, both sides showing 2 small tails. I can't help but think not only of Pfeffery's design, but also her actions in creating the dream bubbles from both galaxies, where all the player ghosts from 2 universes interact during their shared game session. Last thing of note about Pisces is that the ecliptic and the celestial equator go through the center of the constellation. Same with Virgo. Truly, this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Speaking of which, Aquarius shares space with Cetus and the Eridanus River, which Eridan is named after. Aquarius is often associated with Ganymede, a young prince from Greek myth. Because of his beauty, Zeus pulled a Zeus, turning into an eagle to snatch the boy. After being brought to Olympus, Ganymede was made Zeus's cupbearer. Let's just ignore the fact that this myth was used by literal Cretans to justify pederasty, or we'd be here all day. There is another Greek myth sometimes connected to Aquarius, where a man named Deucalion built a boat to save him and his wife from the Great Flood, because in world mythology, you can't escape the deluge accounts. Aquarius was often connected to destructive floodings, even before Greece. Ancient Babylonians and Egyptians negatively associated the constellation with the flooding of their lands and rivers that happened every spring when Aquarius would appear in the sky. As much as Eridan is linked to Roman Greece, I think he would appreciate the Babylonian view of his constellation the most. In ancient Babylon, Aquarius represented the Great One, Enki, the god of water, knowledge, crafts, creation, and magic. His image was used on entitlement stones and official seals for the empire. He was also connected to the planet Mercury. Despite its large size, Aquarius has no particularly bright stars. It's one of the darker constellations in the zodiac. One might say it's grim how dark it is. As for deep space objects, Aquarius hosts NGC 7009, the Saturn Nebula. Saturn is the Roman version of the Greek titan Cronus, and that probably explains Cronus Ampera. The most likely candidate for Capricorn's myth is Pan, Greek god of the wilderness and shepherds. He was also a randy Goatman.
You, Goatman! Holy sh**!
No one is really sure of Pan's timeline because he was supposedly the son of Hermes, grandson of Zeus, but then some myths have him as Zeus's foster brother, both nursed by the same goat. This might explain Gamzee's bouncing around the timelines as well. Regardless, Pan is connected to Capricornus because of one myth concerning Typhon. Yep, we're back here again. Pan escaped the monstrous beast by heading into the water, like Aphrodite and Eros had, but instead of turning full aquatic, Pan turns into a goat with a fish tail. Zeus would soon defeat Typhon, but not without losing the muscles in his legs in the fight. Pan would heal Zeus's legs, and in return, Zeus would put Capricorn, the sea goat, in the night sky. Sea goats are not just a Greek mythological thing. In Babylon, for example, Capricornus is still connected with sea goats, animals linked with their god of water, Enki. Likewise, the Capricornus constellation is also present in Indian astronomy and astrology. It's called Makara. In Indian myth, Makaras are creatures where the front resembles a mammal like a stag or an elephant, while the back half typically resembles something aquatic, like a fish, seal, or crocodile. Makaras are depicted as protective guardians and are sometimes shown carrying the gods themselves on their backs. Sagittarius, Latin for archer, is depicted as a centaur, a being that is half man and half horse, pointing his bow and arrow towards Scorpius. Some people like to say Sagittarius depicts Chiron, the centaur son of Cronus, tutor to many major Greek heroes like Jason, Achilles, and Asclepius. This would be fine if Chiron didn't already have a constellation, appropriately named Centaurus. So where did this random centaur come from? Considering that the Greek constellations borrow heavily from Babylon, let's start there. In ancient Babylon, their constellation was called Nergal, the god of the underworld, of disease, war, and death. He was connected to weapons, including the bow, and was associated with bulls and lions. Nergal's imagery in the constellation shows him, bow drawn, with a horse's body, wings, and a panther emerging from the back of his head, and a scorpion tail coming from above a normal horse's tail. What the heck, Babylon? As for major stars, the brightest star in the constellation, Alpha Sagittarii, is Rukbat, meaning the archer's knee. I'm so mad right now. Sagittarius also has an asterism, or a smaller star shape within the constellation, called the Teapot, linking him further to his Moirel Nepeta, since her spurred planet was Lolcat, the land of little cubes and tea. Sagittarius is also at the exact center of our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy. The Milky Way galaxy. The name that means Milky Way milk. Consarn it! As for deep space objects, Sagittarius has NGC 6618. It's called the Omega, or the Horseshoe Nebula. Circling back to the Milky Way, another notable deep space object dwelling at the heart of the constellation is Sagittarius A star. At 26,000 light-years away, Sagittarius A star is the closest supermassive black hole to Earth, perfect for our era void. Maybe I didn't want to know that there is a supermassive black hole at the center of the galaxy. I wonder if Ophiuchus has something to do with this. The Scorpius constellation is linked to the myth of the hunter Orion. Orion bragged that he was the greatest hunter, better than Artemis herself, the goddess of the hunt. Depending on the version of the myth, it's either Apollo or Artemis who demands Zeus to kill the prideful and boastful hunter. Zeus sends a scorpion Orion's way, its sting causing his death. In the end of both myths, Artemis asks Zeus for his resurrection to the stars. But because Zeus is petty, he raises the scorpion as well. So every summer, Orion is chased through the sky by Scorpius. Wait, the scorpion is the punishment for hubris? I mean, it's not that ironic when you think about it. Vriska not only flew too close to the sun, if you pardon the mixed myth metaphor, in terms of her own power and manipulation, she also served as the spark to summon the 4 heroes who would finally defeat Lord English, a being even more power-hungry and boastful than herself. For major stars, Scorpius contains many bright stars, including Alpha Scorpius. Its name, Antares, means rival of Mars, or rival of Ares. Vriska's rivalry with Aradia, our Ares counterpart, could be a reference to this. Of the many deep space objects in Scorpius, the one I find most notable is NGC 6405, the Butterfly Cluster. It's most likely that god-tier trolls grow wings to make them resemble fairies, but I can't help but enjoy the thought of Vriska being the first to go god-tier, linked to the butterfly cluster. In Greek astronomy, the Libra constellation used to be part of Scorpius. It was known as the Claws of Scorpius, making the Scourge sisters literally close as sisters. However, these claws in ancient Babylon were also known for something else: the scales of Shamash, god of the sun, divination, and justice. Since Shamash could see everything, everywhere, at any time, he was considered the executor of justice and the protector of travelers. Since Greece followed Babylon's lead in the constellations department, even the claws of Scorpius would become their own constellation in the form of Libra, the scales. Though the two brightest stars in Libra still remember their roots, the southern and northern claws. Libra was also associated with another neighboring constellation, but I'm getting ahead of myself. You'll just have to wait for next month when I cover the second half of the Zodiac. I hope you enjoyed the video. There are probably a few facts I missed, so forgive me if I missed one or I didn't think to include it. I might have gotten a few things wrong as well, or hey, this could all be conjecture. Who knows? Check out my socials and remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye! Wait, did Jen just insinuate that we're gonna be stuck with the boys for another month? Boy stuck. More like babysitting their cardboard cutouts. Woo! Let's go! Who's up for some karaoke? Yeah, boy!
Hey there. Consider becoming a patron, just like the phenomenal Alexandra Modelan and Dash.